I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you, so let's make the most of this beautiful day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Mr. Willis' Classroom. Today is Tuesday, May 5th. That is right, Cinco de Mayo. Today's lesson is going to revolve around Cinco de Mayo, and we're going to end up by making some salsa. But before we get there, here's the question of the day. What does July 4th, 1776, September 10th, 1810, and July 1st, 1867 have in common? Independence Days, you are correct. Let's see, July 4th, 1776, the United States. There was September 16th, 1810, independence of Mexico over Spain. And July 1st, 1867, Canada earned its independence from Great Britain. Today we're going to talk about Cinco de Mayo. You see, Cinco de Mayo, Bradley, let's go ahead and zoom down here, began in Mexico. A lot of people believe that it was the Independence Day for Mexico, but as I've already told you, the Independence Day for Mexico over Spain was in 1810, actually September 16th, 1810. So in Mexico, September 16th is a very special day. But Cinco de Mayo also is as well. Now, what is Cinco de Mayo? Where did it come from? How did it start? Well, first of all, Mexico won its independence from Spain in 1810. And after that, Mexico had some hardships. First of all, it also went against the United States in the Mexican-American War, and that started in 1846 and lasted till 1848. Over that war, there was the United States wanting to take Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California from Mexico, and that's basically what the war was about. Eventually, the United States would win that war, but there were several costly battles. For example, there was the Alamo. The Alamo, of course, was a battle that the Mexican Army won in San Antonio over the United States Army. The general for the Mexican Army at the time was General Santa Anna. One of the most notable Americans that lost his life in that battle would have been Davy Crockett. Okay, so let's skip forward a little bit. Before we do that, let's talk about all the heritage that you would see, like in, for example, California. All the cities that were started by the Spanish and were controlled by Mexico. So, for example, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, to name a few. If you go over to New Mexico, you have Santa Fe and Albuquerque. And if you go down into Texas, of course, most notable would be San Antonio. But Mexico ended up losing that war, and it was very, very costly for them. And during that time, in order to fund the war effort, they asked for money from Spain, France, and England. Okay, which then kind of leads us into what happened with Cinco de Mayo. So Mexico's troubles didn't stop there. After the war, they owed a lot of money to, of course, Spain, France, and England, but they were also in turmoil within their country, and they had a civil war. And of course, we've talked about civil war, and the United States had a civil war. Their civil war began in 1861, which then goes back to the borrowing of the money. Mexico would talk to Spain, France, and England and ask for a little grace on the payment that they needed to, give back to them. England and Spain had agreed with Mexico and said, yeah, we'll work something out with you, but France did not. And since Mexico was at a civil war, or the Civil War had just ended, so France felt like this was a perfect time to invade Mexico. So the French army, 5,000 men, came down to Mexico. They were going to march across and they were going to attack Mexico City. The French army felt like this was going to be the perfect time. However, General Zaragoza of the Mexican army had heard that the French were coming and met the French army at a place called Zaragoza met the French army at a town called Puebla, which was outside of Mexico City. There was 1,000 Mexican troops against 5,000 French troops. The Mexican army dug their heels in, and they were very, very, they needed something positive to happen. And they won an amazing victory over the French army. And what date did that happen? That happened on May 5th, 1862, Cinco de Mayo. Now, a lot of people thought that Cinco de Mayo was Mexican Independence Day. Actually, it's not. It was a day that Mexico beat the French army at Puebla and forced the French army out of their country. So it was celebrated by all of the country of Mexico. Now today it's not as important, of course, as September 16th is, because that's their independence over Spain. But in America, it has become a time that people of Hispanic culture will, celebrate Mexican culture. Of course, during that time, there will be lots of eating and lots of family time. They estimate that around last year, 175 million avocados were used during the Cinco de Mayo festivals. So today we have a special guest on our program. We have my daughter, Kinsey, which is home. And of course, she is going to be a graduate at Kansas State University. I'm very, very proud of her, but I'm going to let her take it away.
Hi, everyone. So, like Mr. Willis, my dad said, I will be graduating from K-State this May, and I have a Bachelor's of Arts in Communication Studies, but I also got a minor in Spanish. And since part of the lesson today was about Mexican culture, which is a Spanish-speaking culture, we thought I could come in and teach just a few words if you don't already know them. Pretty basic level stuff, but maybe get you interested in learning about languages and learning about Spanish. I'd like to start off by saying why Spanish has been useful to me, and I think in general languages, whatever language you learn can be useful in these ways. So first of all, I got to skip out on science classes in school or after high school, so in college, because you can take language courses instead for a different type of degree. You could also get scholarships. Now, when you're in high school, if you take a certain set of classes, which you can ask your counselor about, and some of them are language courses, which we offer Spanish, you can get money while you're in school and college. And then the third most important thing to me is that I actually learned a lot by learning Spanish. Not just learning a lot about Spanish, which I did, but knowing how language works. So you really take knowing a language for granted. You learn it inherently while you grow up, but learning it in school teaches you how language actually functions, which is really cool that we know it without trying. Some other benefits of being bilingual, of learning another language, knowing 2 or more languages, is that there are more professional opportunities for you generally. So in my experience at K-State, we offer translation courses with a certification in translation, and we offer medical terminology. So even if you're not interested in just the language itself, or you're not interested in majoring in it, having those skills are important for your future employment opportunities. So we have med students who take Spanish so that they can work with more kinds of people. That's one benefit that I've gotten as well. A lot of people that I've lived with in college and who have been my best friends are people whose families speak Spanish, and I have gotten to visit their homes and talk with their families and learn from them because of at least knowing a little bit of a different language. One cool thing that I've learned, actually not in Spanish classes, but in my communication courses, is that animals make different sounds in different languages. Now, it doesn't mean that if a pig is in a different country that speaks a different language, it will actually make a different noise. But if I ask you what sound does a dog make, you might say woof or bark. If I ask you what sound a cat makes, you would say meow. So in that sense, animals make different sounds in different languages. In Spanish, for example, a chicken or a rooster would say kiri kiri instead of something like cock-a-doodle-doo or bok bok. And then a duck we would say maybe that it makes the noise quack, but a similar language in similar sound in Spanish is quack. Now we want to teach some very simple phrases in Spanish. There's probably 10 or less, and they're pretty much just greetings, so maybe enough to get you by to introduce yourself to someone, to say hello to people, but not much more beyond that. So the first one is hola, that's hello. And after you say hi to someone, you might want to introduce yourself, or they might ask you what your name is. So then you can say soy Kinsey, so say soy like soybean, soy milk, and then your name. Another option is me llamo Kinsey. So me llamo is like I'm called. So if someone asks you like what's your name, I would probably say me llamo Kinsey rather than soy Kinsey. It's basically saying my name is Kinsey or I'm Kinsey. Then when you meet someone, you also like to acknowledge that you are glad to have met them. So I like to say mucho gusto. That's like pleased to meet you. Or if they say it first, you can say igualmente, which is likewise like I'm also glad to meet you. Then you might see a friend and you just want to say, hey, what's up, how's it going? So that's ¿qué pasa? Que is what, and pasa is like what's happening. So that's just asking them kind of like, hey, how's it going? And then there's some greetings throughout the day. So if you want to say good morning, you'd say buenos dias. And if you want to say good night, you'd say buenas noches. That's kind of used like when I've used it most when like you're going to bed or something. Buenas noches. And then we also have a trio of sorts. So a lot of rules that parents teach their kids when they're younger is to say please and thank you. You're welcome's also part of that. If someone says thank you, you usually respond you're welcome. So we'll teach those 3 words right now. So por favor is please. And then if you want to say thank you for something that someone's done for you, you say gracias. And then if you want to say you're welcome, you say de nada. Which I think is kind of fun because I only like kind of put it together in college that de is of and nada is nothing, so it's like no problem, like it's nothing. And then we have telling people goodbye again, kind of like buenas noches. Hasta luego, that's like see you later. It's used more in conversation, it's more casual. And then there's adios, which is actually like goodbye. So those are the words that we have for you. I really hope that you can find a way to use these, and I think Mr. Willis will ask you to do the flip grid and send them back to him. But I hope it kind of gets you inspired to learn a language. I know I got started by just looking up things, and then like I looked up what moon and sun meant, so you can do that online. And you can also take courses at Halstead during high school in middle school.
Yeah.
Wow, that was awesome. Kenzie, you rocked it. I am so proud of you. We're going to flip grid that, and I can't wait for you guys to do that. And Kenzie, she's going to get on there with me, and we're going to check out some of your guys' flip grids on how you spoke, some of the words that she actually taught you. Yeah, that is so awesome. Well, like I said, last year during Cinco de Mayo, there was 175 million avocados eaten. So our activity, and this is what your lesson is, besides doing the flip grid, is you guys are going to make salsa. Now you're going to think, man, there's no fresh tomatoes. Well, if there's no fresh tomatoes, I'm going to give you a great way to make salsa that's really, really good. First of all, take 3 cans of Rotel. You might be saying, what? Yeah, 3 cans of Rotel. A little bit of chili powder and a little bit of garlic salt. Not powder, but salt. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our can opener and we're going to dump 3 cans in a blender. Right. So we already have 2 cans in. You're going to take a 3rd can now. This has already got like nice chilies and stuff like that in it. You can get the regular, you can get the spicy, or you can get the mild. I'm dumping it in, juice and all. Now, take a little garlic salt, sprinkle it on top, like so. Take a little chili powder, dump it in. We're about out of chili powder. I'm just going to use the rest of it. Again, you know, we like our spicy. Swirl it around a little bit. Put the lid on. And then we're going to take it over to the blender. Now we have it in the blender. We're just going to press down and we're going to pulse this baby. Boom, there we have it. If you take the lid off, it's going to look something like this. And I'm telling you what, it is good. It's a lot better than a lot of the canned stuff you buy out there. Sorry about that, can guys. But, okay, then we're going to take it and we're going to put it in a bowl. Take your salsa, pour it in a bowl like this. Okay. It's better if you refrigerate it for a while. Take a chip. Oh yeah, that's bueno. Very good. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the salsa. Hope you enjoyed the lessons, and can't wait to see your flip grids. See you next time on another episode of Mr. Willis' Neighborhood.